How's it going, guys? Cody, guys, back again, dropping yet another video. Right, guys, this story is in my local paper, the Manchester Evening News. The headline reads, "Most theft, burglary, arson and criminal damage is no longer investigated by the police." Now, it's relevant to my local police force, the corrupt Greater Manchester Police. The story reads, "Every week, the Manchester Evening News newsroom gets calls and emails from victims of crime mystified that the police are not investigating, and today's figures seem to bear out those concerns. Almost half the crimes reported to Greater Manchester Police are not being investigated, we can reveal, including most theft, shoplifting, burglary, criminal damage, arson and public order offences. A staggering 17,000 violent crimes were not followed up on by officers last year, with the police chief blaming stark budget cuts for the pattern. Every week, the Manchester Evening News newsroom gets calls and emails from victims of crime mystified that the police are not investigating the crimes, and today's figures seem to bear out these concerns." They always do this little bit where they repeat themselves. The only two categories of crime that had bucked the trend since 2014 are murder and drugs possession offences. In that period, the overall number of incidents reported to Greater Manchester Police has skyrocketed by nearly 3/4, according to figures released to the Manchester Evening News under the Freedom of Information Act. At the same time, more and more incidents have been screened out, with no officer allocated to look at them. Some 47% of reported incidents were not investigated in 2017, compared to 39% 3 years earlier. That included more than 3/4 of vehicle offences and thefts, such as pickpocketing and bag snatching, 70% of bike thefts, 62% of criminal damage, and arson reports and most burglaries. 1 in 4 crimes listed as stalking or harassment are not being looked into, as well as a fifth of weapons possessions, where around 19% of shoplifting offences were screened out in 2014. In 2017, the figures had shot up to 62%. So from 19%, guys, in shoplifting offences that are going uninvestigated and unsolved, it's rocketed to 62%. And while all murders have been investigated, there has been a sharp rise in the proportion of other violent crimes that have not. Last year, more than 17,000 violent offences, many of which resulted in injury, were screened out, almost 4 times more than in 2014. There also appears to have been a gradual increase in the number of rape offences screened out, although numbers are still low. In 2014, 13 reported offences were not investigated, while 26 have been left with no officer assigned to them in the first 8 months of 2018. Latest figures also indicate just how much pressure the police force is under. Data from last year in 2018, which the Manchester Evening News has compared figures to, released to the Liberal Democrats last year, covering 2014 to 2016, show a sharp increase in the volume of crimes reported to the force. GMP said it recorded 194,000 crimes in 2014 compared to 335,000 in 2017, a rise of a whopping 72%. The parallel trends have been reflected in growing anger within the communities across Greater Manchester about the lack of police presence or investigation. In the summer, Oldham MP Jim McMahon warned justice had left the town following a steep rise in crime. But shortly afterwards, Chief Constable Ian Hopkins said that without extra money to replace the 2,000 officers Greater Manchester has lost under the austerity, the public would need to accept the current situation. He said he understood why the public no longer felt safe in some areas, but added, "I don't see what the solution is long term, unless there's either an acceptance of this kind of policing or there's an increase in resources." Today, Greater Manchester Police has also stressed that it is strictly to prioritise the crimes it investigates according to how likely they are to get solved, adding that it was vital the public continues to report crimes to the police. Well, there's no point if they're not going to be investigated. Unsolved, guys, and uninvestigated, criminal's paradise. However, Graham Stringer, MP for Blakely, can't stand this guy. He just likes the sound of his own voice, guys, more than me. Said part of the reason for the current situation still lay with the force's leadership. These figures are an indication that something is seriously wrong with the protection of the public, he said. The government has unreasonably starved the police of resources, but the indications are that the police haven't readjusted in line with the public's needs. The police must stop sending out messages from the top that indicate that the police officers on the street have given up. GMP is not the only force to have seen an increase in the proportion of crimes it screens. However, a Dispatches documentary airing on Channel 4 on Monday, that just went out, guys. You can catch it on Channel 4 on demand. Dispatches issued similar freedom of information requests to police forces across the country and found 27% of offences in England and Wales are now being screened out as officers struggle to cope with the effects of rising crime and falling budgets. And then it goes on, there's a lady that says she'll deal with things herself. 12-year-old Isabel Woods was left scratched, bruised and covered in mud after she was beaten up in a park in Oldham. A case hit national headlines earlier this year. We reported how her mum Victoria reported the crime to police, only to be told it wasn't cost effective to investigate the crime, which was filmed by one of her daughter's attackers. It was instead suggested to her by officers that she should visit the home of the parents instead. At the time, Victoria described the response as diabolical, adding that her daughter's school seemed more worried about the attack than the police. When asked this week whether any progress had been made since, she said she'd given up, echoing the sentiments of many readers who had been in touch in similar situations. Things don't seem to be getting any better with the police, do they, she said. We've had reason to not need them again, and we got a letter saying they won't be investigating it. Safe to say, I won't be bothering with them again. I'll take the advice and deal with things myself. Taking law into your own hands, and then you get arrested. It's a no-win situation, guys, for law-abiding people. But I'm not one for the police. I can't stand the police. I did work for them. Businessman Alan Baker turned detective himself after police told him they would not be investigating thugs who broke into his Porsche before using bank cards 14 times in under 2 hours. He told the Manchester Evening News earlier this year how thieves had smashed their way into his car, which was parked on private property, causing thousands of pounds worth of damage. They then took his wallet and racked up spending at shops across Salford. After being told officers would not investigate, he followed it up himself, tracking down CCTV of the thieves in action at Tesco and 2 newsagents. The police don't come out to see the damage or take fingerprints from the car, he said at the time. They just gave me a crime number. I have lost personal items in my wallet my dad gave me 30 years ago. 2 valuable £100 Scottish notes, plus photos of my daughters taken 20 years ago. I have run around for a week obtaining all the information. They said they are overwhelmed with calls and they're understaffed. What Greater Manchester Police have to say? GMP, or Greater Manchester Police's Assistant Chief Constable Rob Potts, said in a statement, "We prioritise our workload to focus on the most serious crime which represents the greatest threat, harm and risk to the public. We also make decisions on investigations based on solvability factors, which basically assesses the realistic likelihood of a positive outcome to ensure we maximise the impact of what our public resources are at the time, which reported crime has significantly increased. In many crimes, there are no witnesses, CCTV or forensic opportunities, which means there are no leads for the officer to investigate further. Where strong lines of inquiry exist, officers will investigate and rely on the public to help us. To do this by reporting suspicious activities or by telling us about anybody they know who is involved in the crime." So they're asking the public, guys, to turn crime solvers. The fact we choose not to continue certain investigations following an initial assessment does not mean that no positive action is taken. Well, of course it does. Investigation is only part of the support that is available to victims of crime. The Victims Services Partnership in Greater Manchester helps support and signpost victims of crime. I cannot emphasise enough that it remains vital that the public report all the crime to the police. The overall picture of crime is carefully considered when targeting offenders and hotspots. We will continue to work closely with our partners and communities to problem solve within neighbourhoods to prevent crimes reoccurring. Just paying lip service, guys. What the Mayor's office says. So this is Bev Hughes, the Deputy Mayor. Deputy Mayor Bev Hughes, who leads on policing for Andy Burnham. Andy Burnham is the Mayor of Manchester, or Greater Manchester, said every victim of crime rightly expects their report to be taken seriously. But these figures lay bare the stark reality of years of central government cuts. The police simply cannot investigate every crime and have to take difficult decisions where to best focus their time and resources. They and I wish that this was not necessary, but unfortunately it is. However, it is a priority for me and the Chief Constable that the most serious of crimes that cause the most harm to our communities are fully investigated with no effort spared in to bring perpetrators to justice. What the Home Office have to say, these are involved with like policing and stuff. The government said police already had the resources they need to carry out their vital work, including extra funds raised through increases in council tax. Prime Minister Theresa May has committed to allocating more cash to forces in next year's spending review, it added. A spokesman said, "We expect the police to take all reports of crime seriously, to investigate and bring offenders to court so that they can receive appropriate punishment. The government remains alert to changes in trends and new methods used by criminals. We will continue to work with the police, industry and others to consider the evidence and what more can be done to prevent these crimes taking place. The deployment of police forces, the deployment of resources is a matter for chief constables and police and crime commissioners." And then there's like a massive breakdown, guys, but I'll put a link in the description. Crime categories changed in 2017, meaning data cannot be compared. How convenient. No new crime categories. And that's it, guys. That's the end of the story. So in a nutshell, what the police are having to do, guys, they're having to let low-level crime, antisocial behaviour, arsons, thefts, burglaries, things like that slide. And like I say, guys, shoplifting, burglaries, some of the most persistent offenders out there. Think about drug addicts, right, that are stealing, breaking into garden sheds, commercial burglaries, dwellings to steal goods, cars. You've got people that boosting cars to sell on key. Then you've got some of the most persistent and some of the like worst offenders are shoplifters, burglaries and things like that. And what this is saying to them people, if you were involved in these crimes of theft, burglary, arson and criminal damage, etc., harassment, stalking, go and do it. Green light, go knock yourself out, mate. The police have got to prioritise, guys. There are the crimes that they investigate. And they're letting low-level crimes go for more serious crimes, murder and rape and things like that. It's a green light for criminals across the board, guys, to commit crime. And the police are powerless to stop it. And that's not just here in Manchester, guys. That's up and down the country. Under the Tory government, I think they've lost about 21,000 to 27,000 police officers. It's the lowest policing figure since 1996, since the comparable records began. And like I say, I'm out of crime now, but oh my God. Right, if I was back in crime, I was good before. I'd be even better this time. It's very easy to get away with crime, guys. And like I say, that was back then. It's even easier now because chances are community police stations closing down. Frontline policing has been decimated under the Tory government. For law-abiding people, right, honestly, it's scary prospect for them people that are paying the tax, live law-abiding, don't break the law, won't even park on double yellow lines, right? And it's free reign for criminals. It's a criminal's paradise. It's as simple as that. And I stick by that as a former criminal, as a former prisoner. I wasn't involved in any of these like little offences, you know what I mean? I was involved with serious organised crime, racketeering, protection rackets, the drug game, things like that, yeah. I say that to my shame, to my detriment, but it's the reality. But these offences, guys, like I say, you used to get arrested for shoplifting. Now, I think shoplifting, you'll only get arrested if it's over £200. Below that, they give you like I think you get like a reprimand or something like that, or a fine or something. And like I say, some of the most persistent offenders out there are those that are involved in these sorts of crimes. And the police, and it's there. And the police are speaking out on it, man. This is a very, if you're a criminal and you are reading this story, you are rubbing your hands together thinking, let me get some leather gloves on and a bally, mate. I'm out tonight. I'm on a graft. And like I say, community police stations closing down, frontline policing, police, like the sexual offences unit here in Manchester was disbanded. Disbanded, guys. It all plays into the criminals' hands. And like I say, the police are having to prioritise. The reaction times are down. They've got to cast the net further. And they're putting all their eggs in one basket. And the truth is, criminals are getting away with crime on a daily basis. And it's from 60, I think it was, 19% up to 62% or something on like car crime and stuff like that. Guys, it's, do you know what I mean? Anyone with a clued up brain knows that cars from like 60 plates upwards are, for the most part, are tracked and stuff like that. So there's different things, man. Like I say, it's a criminal's paradise. It is a green light for criminals to commit crimes, and the police are powerless to stop it. And they've admitted so much in this. The police and crime commissioner, you've got the deputy mayor, you've got the Home Office. The Home Office, Theresa May saying that, oh, everyone's got enough police. She's not asked because She's got police at the end of Downing Street where she lives. She lives behind a big gate with police, CCTV, roaming patrols and stuff. She's safe. So fuck Joe Public. What do you think, guys? This is happening in Manchester. Is it happening where you're at? Community police stations closing down, frontline policing being decimated, police response times are down. Police crimes are going unsolved and even uninvestigated. And by screened out, guys, the word screened out means that they're just, rather than saying they're not responding to it, they say screened out. Criminal's paradise. Simple as that. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about the video. Let me know what you think about the story. Link in the description like we always do. Like, comment, subscribe. Cody out.